Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kenn's Guitars. I'm Garrett Waite, and I'm here with Kenn Fox at Paramount Guitars. Today we're going to be talking about Lakewood. And Kenn, you've had a long relationship with Lakewood, basically for as long as I've known you. That's been a pretty high guitar up on your list. So before we start talking about the aspects of the guitar, the aesthetics, the tone and whatnot, just tell us a little bit about how you first heard of them, how you ran into them, and how your relationship started.
Boy, it's been so long I don't even remember. I think maybe 15 years ago-ish, I became aware of Lakewood and started carrying a couple of their instruments here and there. And shortly after that, they had been coming to the NAMM shows in California. So one NAMM show, they decided they didn't want to ship a lot of the instruments that they brought to show back, so they shipped them to Paramount, and that was kind of a epiphany for me because it really turned me on to a lot of the models that I had never seen, particularly the M14. It was one of the cheaper guitars in their line, so I guess I never paid that much attention to it, and I had never seen anyone play one, and they shipped me one, and I was just blown away. It's, for the kind of stuff I do, it's really the perfect tonality, it's mahogany back and sides, cedar top, and at that time there wasn't a lot of cedar top instruments around. So it really turned me on to that sort of cello-esque vibe that they get.
Yeah.
And so I bought the one from the show, needless to say. And then a couple of years later, I ended up having them build me this, which is sort of a custom version of that. This one's got snakewood binding and a couple of other things. But the thing that's really unique about these is they do a long scale and they do a short scale, but the long scale is slightly longer than traditional American instruments, and the short scale is slightly shorter. So the scale on this, instead of 25.5, is 25.6, which gives you just a tad more string pressure. So for a lot of the tunings that I do, it's really nice. Gives you a really nice sort of, like I said, cello-esque woody tone, which I really like.
Yeah.
And then the other thing they do that's sort of unique that works well for me is their standard nut width is 46 mil. Traditionally, a lot of the Martins were 1 11/16, and then 1 3/4 is sort of the standard these days. So 46 millimeters is just a tad wider up here, 1 13/16 approximately. And that works well spacing wise for the chord stuff I do, and of course in the lower tunings you tend to give away a lot of your string pressure, so that sort of the whole combination of just a little bit more string pressure and the width works well for the stuff I write.
So kind of jumping off of that, you mentioned different length of the neck, different width of the nut, and I read sort of in my preliminary research leading up to this episode, Martin Zelliger from Lakewood originally studied with a classical luthier, and I was wondering if you notice any of those aspects in their steel string guitars.
Well, particularly in this one, this is what they call the D-shaped neck, because this is an older model, and they still offer this, but I think they've sort of gone to more of a traditional C, a symmetric C shape these days, but the D neck is a little bit more like what you would associate with a really good classical guitar. So it's more in the shape of the neck, I think, that I notice it than anything. And it is a meaty neck. This D neck that they originally did is quite a bit meatier than, especially the American instruments. This one is a newer one, so this is actually a symmetric C neck.
Cool. So you mentioned you have about like a 15-year-long relationship with them, and one of the features of Lakewood is that they kind of draw on all this tradition, but they use a lot of modern technology to replace kind of outdated practices. And you mentioned the change in the neck shape. What have you noticed as far as how they've grown and changed from when you met them to how they're making their guitars today?
Well, I think the main thing is they offer more options than they used to. They started out as a line that offered specific models, and you bought the models. These days, they are one of the only builders that I deal with that has a total custom app. So you can go in and literally pick out every piece of your instrument online and build your own guitar from scratch. So you can pick out the woods, you can pick out the grade of woods you want, and they have probably the biggest selection of woods of any builder out there. And all the appointments can be changed, so you literally pick out, what rosette you want. All of the woods, including the fretboard, the head plate, top, back, and sides, of course, and then machines, pickup systems, anything and everything. They have a million options. So this, by the way, is not the original pickguard on this. This originally didn't have a pickguard, and it was starting to look like Willie's guitar.
Trigger.
There's actually, I played this so much that there's actually a hole underneath this. So, so this is the M14 model.
Yep.
And then the other one I play is an M22. This is a newer one. Like I said, this has got the C-shaped neck. This is also 46 millimeters at the nut, and this is cedar top as well, but a European walnut back and sides, which I really like. Snakewood binding, snakewood appointments like that one. And this has got a gloss top. These guys are, being that they're European, they do a lot with open pore finishes, sort of like Loudon and McElroy and some of the Irish builders. Ferk does that as well. And I really like the sound of the open pore finish. It's woodier, and it almost sounds like a guitar that's played in and been played a lot. So I, on both of these, got the open pore finish on the back and sides, and then this one I got a gloss top, just because it wears a little bit better. And this one I actually had him put a pickguard on it too. So
very nice.
So I guess the difference between the mahogany and the walnut's got a little bit more of a rosewood-esque kind of bottom end. So it's very fundamental like that, but has a little bit more in the bottom. And it sort of, to my ear, it has a little bit rounder tone.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about sort of the aspects of Lakewood that make them unique. So just regarding sort of aesthetics, what do you kind of associate when you see a Lakewood guitar? What are the kind of structural and artistic sort of aspects of the design that stand out to you?
Well, it's very European. They do have meatier necks. Like we talked about before, you could almost say that they have just a tad of that sort of classical feel to them, which, as we both know, a lot of the instruments I play are like that.
Right.
Like the Keldays I play are actually Spanish heels, so they basically are steel string guitars with a classical style build.
Yeah.
But I guess this M body is what I really associate with their vibe. The M style body is thicker on the bottom than it is by the neck. You can see the difference. It gradually gets wider. And it's a 15 3/8 body at the bridge, so it's a fairly big guitar. The thickness is a little bit more than a traditional American guitar. That's, I guess, one of the main things that you get with the European style instruments is the tail down to here is quite a bit thicker. So this basically at 15 3/8, a little bit bigger than an OM, but with the extra thickness, you almost get the volume of a dreadnought without having to deal with, holding a dreadnought.
Yeah.
And of course, with the wedge style body like this, it's really comfortable for me to hold. So, yeah, but I think, the radius of the neck has a lot to do with why I like these. It's a little bit flatter than a lot of the American instruments. And the woodiness, of course, like we talked about. It's very woody.
Cool. So tell us, you showed us two of the guitars that you own from them so far, but you also mentioned to me before we started filming that you have another one in the works. So tell us a little bit about what that's going to be like.
Yeah, I just ordered another one. The one that's being built right now is a smaller body. So it's what they call an A body, which would be more, probably closer to a traditional OM size. And that's going to be a cutaway. And same wood as this on the back and sides, the European walnut, but I'm getting like a 4A grade bear claw German spruce top. And then the thing that's probably the biggest difference between these two and the one that's being built is the one that is coming in is going to be short scale. And like I said, their short scale, their long scale is a tad longer than traditional long scale, but their short scale is a little bit shorter. So most of the builders that we carry at this point, their short scale is 24/9 and Lakewood is 24/8. So for some things, like when I'm doing fast Celtic stuff and that sort of thing, I think that'll give me enough extra speed with the short scale to be able to do that stuff comfortably.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to thank you once again for joining us, talking about these beautiful Lakewood guitars, which is the only German guitar that Paramount sells. And we hope you join us next time on Kenn's Guitars.